Hi there, so welcome to this talk on combining generative AI and mixed reality for this year's Global XR conference. We are going to look at how we do that with StereoKit for the mixed reality part and how we do that with OpenAI for the generative AI part. My name is Lee Engelson and I'm the Developer Relations Lead at Avanade. I'm a 4 times Microsoft MVP in Developer Technologies and Mixed Reality. I'm doing a part-time degree, master's degree in Entrepreneurship Management and Innovation, and I'm also a published author in Augmented Reality. So if you're looking for some bedtime reading or you want to learn how to create augmented reality experiences for your iOS devices, then I have a book on Amazon you can check out. Okay, so what we're going to look at today, we are going to look at a number of different technologies to show how we can create generative AI experiences inside mixed reality. In particular, we're going to use StereoKit to create the mixed reality part and talk a little bit about what StereoKit is and how to use it. We're going to be looking at how we call Chat GPT to generate some text from OpenAI, and we're looking at DALL-E, in particular I think DALL-E 2, to generate some images for generative AI from OpenAI, and then we'll summarize at the end. So because this year's theme for the Global XR conference is outer space, I thought I'd have a bit of fun with that topic and use generative AI to create some aliens and some spaceships and some planetary colonies using text, generative AI text and generative AI images, and then show them in mixed reality space. Yes, these are perhaps not what you would call real-world use cases, but hopefully you can take away from the talk that we can use this same combination of technologies for a wide variety of use cases. When I'm learning something, and particularly when I'm sharing it, I like to make it a bit of fun because it's a little bit more engaging, a little bit easy to remember rather than being a bit more dry and serious. But you can use these for serious purposes. So here's the basic concept of the app and the experience and the demo that I'll show later. So on my Meta Quest headset, I'll be using StereoKit. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute. And I'll be running that straight from Visual Studio. So I'm coding it up in Visual Studio and I can run it straight into my headset from Visual Studio. And from that app inside the headset, I will either be sending a prompt to Chat GPT and getting a response back, and or sending that response or a new prompt to DALL-E 2 and returning some images back and showing that in mixed reality space on the headset. So I need to introduce what StereoKit is really briefly. So it's a mixed reality framework originally created by the Microsoft Mixed Reality team, I believe. It always has been and still is open source, so you can contribute it, check out the code. It is OpenXR compliant, which means that if you create a mixed reality experience using StereoKit, the chances are it will work straight off the bat if you run it on HoloLens or Pico or Oculus Quest 2 or 3, or anything like that. As I mentioned, this is really, really good because if you already know Visual Studio and C#, because you can you can target StereoKit using C# and Visual Studio. It runs both on MetaQuest 2 and 3. I know this because I've done it. It's been built so it's really, really fast to build, deploy, and run. So it takes seconds to build and seconds to deploy. There are other big IDEs that take minutes and minutes to compile and deploy to the device. StereoKit is super, super quick. The StereoKit framework has been built for productivity in mind. So whilst it might not be your first choice for like a mixed reality gaming engine, if you are wanting to throw up some windows with some text boxes and some options, some pull downs, some buttons, this is absolutely perfect for that sort of use case. And it is a really good way to get into mixed reality or virtual reality development, just because the barrier to entry is so low. Okay, I have created a previous mixed reality, virtual reality experience using StereoKit. I created a mixed reality Kanban board where you can create post-it notes by turning over your hands and create them from scratch, and then add some text to them and then post it on the virtual reality board. That works very well. So this isn't my first attempt at using StereoKit. I'm not an expert in it by any means, but I have tried it before. It's really, really good. It's got a whole bunch of features going for it. First of all, it's built with, you really need very minimal code to get it running, and you'll see just how minimal I mean in a minute. It's got a built-in simulator, so even if you don't have a headset, you can run the code straight away. It will pop up a window as a simulator. There's various keyboard shortcuts and mouse gestures you can do to simulate grabbing things, moving around the space. So the simulator is really good, and it really helps with fast deployment and iterations. It's got built-in support for hands, so it can detect your hands, which way they're facing, where all the joints are in your hands. You can anchor things to the hands, like buttons. If it can detect which way they're facing, I think I mentioned that. It can even control to a certain degree how the hands appear in the environment as well. As well as hands, it's got support for controllers. So with the controllers that come with the Quest, and I guess any headset, it's got built-in support for those. It can detect which buttons you're pressing, the orientation of them, everything you'd expect from controller support, really. And the other thing it's got going through for it is this great, fantastic support for pass-through. On the Oculus Quest 2, the pass-through was a little bit rubbish. It was very grey scale and not great. Whereas the Quest 3, it's full colour, very much better. And obviously, you've got the augmented reality devices like the HoloLens. You've just got pass-through by default, and it supports that as well. Getting started in StereoKit is super simple. If you head on over to StereoKit.net, there's some instructions on there, but I will kind of just show you some of those instructions that they have on there. So there is templates you can install to get started. Before that, you want to make sure that you've got the .NET version 7 SDK installed, and you can do that just from the command line using Winget. If you've got Winget installed, you can install the templates, and once you've done that, it's as simple as making the directory. And if you're interested in deploying to MetaQuest headset like I am, you'll want their multi-device template, project template. So you will use this command here, .NET new sk multi, and once you've done that, it's created a project. You can open it up and run it straight away, and it will spin up the simulator, plug in a headset, and so long as you've enabled developer mode on your headset and click yes to the prompts that come up and say you allow this headset access to your computer, it will just deploy straight to the headset in a matter of seconds. Now, I mentioned the code was minimal. It is really minimal. The box at the bottom here is showing that once you've got the using StereoKit and called sk initialize, you can call this sk run method. Now what that method is doing, I believe, is running every frame. So everything within that is running every frame. And in here, all we're saying is draw this cube with the default material, which I think is 0.1 meters, which is probably what, 10 centimeters? Yeah, 10 centimeters, I think. And it's just there, 4 lines of code it's running. You'll obviously want to do something a bit more complex than that, but it's super simple to get started. And again, I think that will just draw the cube. If you want to be able to interact with it, there's just another line of code you put above that to give it like a handle, and you'll be able to then reach out and grab the cube and touch it. Okay, Chat GPT. You're probably familiar with it already. There's a website you can go to, enter a prompt, it will return you some text. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to be doing is using a NuGet package called OpenAI.net, and providing it with my OpenAI key, and then sending it over a prompt, and it will return it back. Now, I have previously written the code myself to call the endpoint. This time, I'm opting to use a NuGet package instead. Now, I have used ChatGPT in a coding context previously for some other side projects, calling the endpoint directly, like I just mentioned. So previously what I've done is I have created things like a customized travel itinerary based on your interests and where you want to visit, and that's where it's quite good. So I have used ChatGPT before in some experiments, and this is us using it in mixed reality this time. DALL-E. Now, DALL-E is OpenAI's image creator, so you pass it over some text like you do on the DALL-E website, and it will return you some images based on that text. And here is just an example of one of the prompts that we'll be using today. A few, or could be generated, a full-length, photorealistic, curious alien with orange tentacles looking around on its home planet. And there you go. There's some images returned by DALL-E, but what we'll be doing it again is using the OpenAI.net NuGet package, providing a prompt, retrieving the images, and showing it in mixed reality. I have to say, I'm pretty sure it's using DALL-E 2 under the hood. Don't think it's using DALL-E 3. I think I need to pay extra to use the DALL-E 3 endpoint. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to move on to the demo, which I pre-recorded, and I'll just try and describe what's going on through it, if that's okay. So this is what happens when I run the program. Now, I've got a number of windows there, I've got a number of icons, I can grab, move all these around. I've even got the title from this talk in there as an image. Everything in there I can grab and move around because it's got a handle. You'll notice that there's some tilting going on. Now, because when you stream, you can't stream directly from your headset and see, you can't record on your headset and see the mixed reality. So what we have to do, for privacy reasons, so what I have to do instead is stream it using something like SideQuest VR, and then record what it's being streamed. And what that does is, because it's only using one eye, I think it's doing it at an angle. So actually, when I'm doing this, I have to tilt my head. But when you're using the headset and the experience, it's very, very natural, and you don't have to tilt your head, obviously, and you don't get this little image thing going on, eye thing going on. It's very, very good. So here, what I'm showing is I've got this alien creator, and I can either say click put me a blue curious alien with so many heads, and it's gone off to DALL-E, create those images, and I can move them around. And cool thing about StereoKit is I can point at them and grab them, and they will come to me. That's pretty neat. But as well as me crafting my own prompts using a number of configurators, what I've done is I've put a button on here so that if I press it, it will generate me a random description of an alien, and then by calling ChatGPT, and then I'll take that prompt that's been returned and then send that to DALL-E and then return some images. And I find you get a bit more variety of images returned that way rather than this quite prescriptive prompt creation. So what image have we created here? A tall, slender alien with 3 eyes, pale blue skin. Didn't like that one. Anything that mentioned tentacles is pretty good. So I think sometimes I'll keep pressing the button to recreate the prompt from ChatGPT until I get one that I like. So here we go. So spindly alien with tentacles. I like that prompt. So I'll hit the generate images. That's going off to call DALL-E. I'm just going to tidy up those blue alien images while I'm waiting for that to come back. And you'll notice, here we go. These are some pretty good alien images, I think, from DALL-E. Very orange aliens. They've got the tentacles in there. This is a bit more using the AI imagination, the creativity, than the bog standard blue aliens you see. So I quite like these. When I hit the generate images, you'll see the images disappear. That's just because I've got this loop in my code that I just want to be really defensive and not try and draw something that's not there. It's hard to explain, but All right, so that's the images. That works quite well. The other thing we're going to do is do the create spaceship creator. So again, I can use the configuration buttons to say, go create me a military spaceship or an exploration spaceship that's long or big or small, or I can click this button that hits Chat GPT that generates me a random description of a spaceship. And I have to do that a few times to get what I think is quite an interesting prompt to come back to then send to DALL-E. So I do that a few times, but then hopefully soon I click a button that says generate images, and then that will go off and create those images, send that prompt to DALL-E and create those images and return them back in StereoKit in mixed reality. For some reason I find that images of the spaceships can be a little bit bland, so I have to try this a few different times sometimes. The other thing I can do is toggle the pass-through, which I think I do in a minute. Yep, so this is like the view you would see without the pass-through, and this is what I used a lot on the Quest 2, but with the nice pass-through for the Quest 3, you get this nice mixed reality view, because you still see the environment around you, and that's a lot better to work with. You certainly bump into a lot less things, I'm telling you now. Okay, still trying to find a prompt that I like for the spaceships, and then once I've done that, I must have hit generate image. Images. Yep, they've disappeared. Now they'll all reappear again. And like I said, these are images again back from DALL-E. They're a little bit boring, I find, these ones, so I do say okay, generate some different spaceships, but nonetheless the spaceships that have been created from DALL-E, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it. So I'm going to move these into position. Again, I can just point at them, it detects what I'm pointing at. I can close my hand and those images will come to my hand, and I can also rotate them and orient them however I want. So this time I'm saying, I think, create me a donut shaped spaceship, a big royal donut shaped spaceship. I don't know why I went for donut. So that's the prompt that's going to be sent over to DALL-E. I click the button, that goes off and creates them. And puts them in this StereoKit environment. Here we go. So the problem with this is that it's not only created donut-shaped spaceships, it's created donut spaceships, which means that it's been very, very literal, and this is where you have to be a bit careful with your prompts, because obviously I didn't want spaceship donuts, space donuts. I wanted spaceship, donut-shaped spaceships. But again, it's very, very literal, very, very funny, and I've got some donut spaceships. And in fact, I like the donut spaceship so much, and I think Krispy Kreme should branch out to interstellar travel. That I generate some more to show them. Again, these are maybe not. Some of these images aren't perfect, so maybe whilst not be the final product, what this is really good for, I think, is inspiring you to future iterations of ideas and designs. And so, some of these are straight off out of a sci-fi movie as well. Some of them are pretty good. Okay. So that's it for the spaceships. I think I move on to the colonies next. All right, for time. Okay, colony one. Now for the colony one, I've not even bothered with a configurator. I just said, create me a random space colony description. It's not the exact prompt I used to send over to Chat GPT, but very, very similar. And then again, yeah, it's saying photorealistic space colony consists of large planetary domes, and that's all come back from Chat GPT. I'm happy with that. I click generate images, and then that's going to take that prompt, send it off over to DALL-E, and there's my colony planetary habitat images that have come back. Let's go have a closer look at some of these. They look all right, not too bad. I'd live there probably, depending on what planet it was. So move them into position, and I think we have another round of creating some more planetary habitats, see what it comes back with, and then yeah, see how we go. I've got a feeling that in DALL-E 3, the images are got even more detail, even more accurate. So I would be super interested to see what this experience was like in the images generated with DALL-E 3 over DALL-E 2. Here we go. This time got a bit more colourful, so the prompt, which I didn't actually look at, must have said something about vegetation or greenery in the habitat, because here we got a bit more of life in the habitat rather than these orb-like buildings all over the place. So yeah, so here we've got my colony habitats here. We've used OpenAI to generate the text and the images, and I've got my aliens to my left, and I've got my spaceships to the right, and that's a really weird sentence. But I'm just demonstrating the technology. This has been, combining mixed reality with generative AI. It's super easy, and I'm sure you can come up with a whole bunch of use cases which are a lot more useful than generating pictures and images of spaceships and aliens and planetary colonies, unless you're a science fiction writer, in which case this might be right up your street. But yeah, the other thing I can do is I can walk around this whole thing, so I don't have to stay stationary in the middle of where I'm calling all this stuff. I can walk around the room, look at it from different angles. They'll still all be there. Yeah, so that's very much the demo. So I'll stop there because diminishing returns and all that. So let's go back to the talk, he says, by pressing this button. Right, so that's the demo done with. I'm going to really quickly run you through the code. If you can see it, it's probably going to be super small. So I'm going to zoom in on the text as much as I can. Now, whilst you can run the code without minimal code, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff you put in here if you want to do all the stuff I've done. So I'll try and run through this. Again, I'm not going to labor over this point. I can always put this code on GitHub for people to look at. One of the things you do is maintain a list of poses. Now, a pose is a combination of both a position and an orientation. So you want to maintain a list of those. Static lists, so when you move them around, you're actually updating that underlying pose, the reference to that pose, and it will remember that. I've got some prompts here that I'm sending over to Chat GPT or DALL-E. I've got my OpenAI key hidden in that region, which I'm not going to share with you. A list of textures, a list of sprites. What have we got here? Here are some positions for the image logos at the top, for the windows as well, for the UI on them. Got some enums that I use for the radio buttons, for the configurators. And we get to the interesting stuff. This class here is to manage the pass-through, so you can toggle it on and off. And then here, this main method's probably the interesting one. You can set up some settings, instantiated the pass-through stuff, initialize the program. I'm not even sure I'm using these models here. So the model is kind of a physical, visible thing you can see and interact with. In fact, no, you can't interact it by default, but you can see, and then you need to add like a handle to interact with it. Here I've got like the floor position and the floor material. So when I toggle the pass-through off, you can see this grid shape on the floor. That's what that material is. Then I've got these positions here for the 4 images that come back when I've hit the return from DALL-E. And then this is the most important bit, I think, of StereoKit. StereoKit runs. This runs every frame, I believe, and it's within here that if you want something to display, you put it. If you don't want it, you toggle it on or off, or have some conditional logic to say don't show it this, at the moment or something. So for example, if I do draw alien window, if I jump to that, StereoKit's got this really good verbose way of defining user interfaces. It's all code first. There's no drag and drop. So you've got UI begin, window begin, the name of the window, reference to the position. This is the label. This is saying just place something, the next thing on the same line. And then what StereoKit does, it combines controls, the declaration of the control as well as the event, what happens to it. So here I'm saying so this is the declaration of the radio button, but this second bit is what happens if it's actually clicked, and that's a bit more clearer on the buttons, which I'll show in a bit. So that's just showing all the radio buttons, and I probably could rewrite a lot of this code, but I'm not going to. Here, again, I'm saying that's both the declaration of the button and also the event, if what's happened if it's clicked. So that's saying if create prompt button is clicked, then set the alien prompt to be this sentence here and inserting what was selected. And on the same line, I'm saying have a button that says create random alien description. And it's this code here that in the background, on a background thread, goes and takes that prompt and sends it off to OpenAI via the NuGet package that I mentioned. Take it sending across my key as well as the prompt and things like max tokens and stuff like that. And then this one was just returning the prompt from sending a prompt but getting a different random response prompt from Chat GPT. And then some other ones which are actually generating images, and this is the one that goes off and calls DALL-E. So again, instantiate an OpenAI client, then it's as simple as calling this generate image async prompt with a generate image async, sending across the prompt, the number of images you want and the image size, and I'm sending each result, and that actually returns the URL of the images, doesn't actually return the images. So I have to store those image URLs and then do something else to download those. Again, I won't labor over all of this, but let's see if we can do a bit more. So drawing those logos at the top is really, really simple. I've done it so that each of those logos, if you remember the OpenAI, the StereoKit one, the DALL-E one, and like that, I've made them as to windows, but I've said make them empty windows that don't have like the Chrome and the title at the top and stuff like that. There's other ways of doing this, probably better ways, but this is how I've done it, and said on that kind of very plain window, write an image, and then I'm saying create a sprite from the one of the files that I'm packaging along with the app, and this is the size. And the other thing I can do is how that window behaves. I can either say move exactly how I orientate my hand like this, so I can angle it any way I want, but I can also say actually make it always face inwards, so I can't, if I wanted to restrict how the user could rotate it, so however they moved it, it would always face the user inwards. So there's a couple of options there. So those are the logos. And then when I come to actually drawing the images, like I said, it has to actually call them first, to get them, download them from the URL. So I'll try and find where I've done that. Is on the button press, so I don't want a method down here. So I've got a method here which is get texture from URL, and that's just instantiating a web client and then downloading that as an array of bytes, creating a texture from that array of bytes, and it's doing that a whole bunch of times. So there's a bit of code there, and the code could be definitely improved and refactored and stuff like that. But that's all the code, and so a lot of it is just lengthy because of the number of radio buttons and stuff like that. But it's pretty good declarative way of creating user interfaces. It's my preference over dragging and dropping things onto a screen. Anyway, that is the code for the demo. So we'll jump back to the presentation now, hopefully. Okay. Oh, in fact, there's a summary. So just to summarize, after showing you the demo and the code, if you can remember back what we talked about before that. So generative AI is very, very flexible. Yes, we've used it in a very silly context, but this is just one way of learning the underlying technologies. It could be used for a number of use cases. It doesn't have to be silly use cases like this. StereoKit is a fantastic tool for virtual reality and mixed reality development, and a great way of on-ramping into virtual reality and mixed reality if you want to do that. And mixed reality itself is improving all the time. You just have to look between the differences between the pass-through for the Oculus Quest 2 and the Oculus Quest 3. You just see just how much more powerful the devices have become after each generation. And mixed reality is becoming more accessible, not only through an increasing number of use cases and adoption by industry and markets, but also the actual kit itself. You know, these devices, more and more people are getting their hands on them. The price points are dropping. People are building more ways of leveraging them, and it's only when more and more people have got these in their hands and you get them in the hands of the developers that you're really going to be seeing these amazing use cases created. Perhaps not creating aliens and stuff like that, but I'm really excited about the different use cases we're going to see for mixed reality in the future. So if you've got a question, do feel free to ping them. Because this is a pre-recorded talk, won't be able to answer them real time, but do ping them whenever you want to me. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this talk on combining generative AI and mixed reality. My name is Lee Engelston. My handle on most social media networks is Lee Engelston. So if you do want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now, or YouTube, please do. You'll be able to find me. There's not many of us. Not many Lee Engelstons. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much. Bye now.